On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Idol by Horrendous. And we introduced segments.
Yeah, we're going to
do segments from now on.
It's all on paper and everything.
This is utterly out of character for me. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
And today we're going to be talking about an album from 2018. It's called Idol. It's by the band Horrendous. And we're going to get to that in a bit, I guess.
Okay.
Just going to discuss some stuff.
In a moment, you got this nice little lift.
A list.
You have a lift.
Yeah, I have a lift. It can take you up. It can take you down. It can really it'll take you down.
Take you down.
I'm going to take you down. What's up? How you doing?
Life is good. I mean, it's nice out. I almost rode the motorcycle tonight.
You almost rode the motorcycle.
Almost.
You didn't, though.
No, because once the sun goes down, then it gets kind of chilly, and I'm kind of a pansy.
When the sun goes down, we'll be grooving.
Oh, no.
Sorry, Kenny. I've been infected by Kenny Chesney. And Uncle Cracker. We can't forget about Uncle Cracker's contribution.
Matt Schaefer.
Matt Schaefer.
That I know his real name.
Is he an uncle, I wonder?
You know, I don't know. He never really says.
Something that happened last week is there's a new Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties song out.
Oh, sure.
It's called Running Toward the Light, and I've been listening to it a lot, and I really enjoy it. I was kind of not sure about it the first listen, and then I was like, I'm not sure about this. Let's give it another listen.
Mm-hmm.
Got done with that one. I was like, still not sure. Let's give it another listen. And it slowly dawned on me that I've been listening to it so much. It's probably because I really like it.
You like it, sure.
So, I ordered the vinyl and a jacket, a cool jacket that
Sweet.
Soupy wears in the video.
So not just like not just like a dust jacket for the album.
No,
like
it's
an actual jacket.
Yeah, it's a jean jacket. That's what the other day I was asking you if I could pull that off.
Sure. And then I said, just start at the bottom and you yank up.
It has buttons.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not a jean jacket type of guy. I don't know if I can pull off that look. Other things that have been going on. How hard is it to get a goddamn haircut in this town?
It's not hard. There's a lot of places to get a haircut.
I called 5 places today.
Yeah.
And they were all busy on a Wednesday afternoon.
Really?
And or they had some bullshit where it's like, visit our website and look there, and there's the barber shop down by JL Beers.
Sure.
And I thought about booking it there, but I'd have to wait until next week, and it's like I just want a haircut now. I miss when I used to do my own hair, but really all that took was, hey, one part's really short and the other part's really long. Make the really short stuff not exist anymore.
Sure, shave it down.
And that's all I had to do. I mean, it was tough to do the back of my own head. Mm-hmm. But I did that for like a year and a half.
I could have brought my clippers over.
You
could have made an event out of this.
I don't know. Not that I don't trust you to cut my hair, but I feel like a hairdresser will do better.
I used to cut my own hair all the time. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Yeah, there's a barber shop over by JL Beers. Mm-hmm. They do straight razor stuff.
Oh, wow.
It's a bit more expensive, but I was thinking, why not? But
treat yourself.
Treat yourself. But then the other thing is, like, I wonder if she's going to ask about my shitty mutton chops. It's like, what do you want me to do anything with these? It's like, no, I don't. Well, we could shape them up. It's like, are you saying my mutton chops suck? Because I'm insecure about that.
Wow.
my very short mutton chops right now. I trimmed them recently.
Oh, you did?
I did last night. You didn't notice because they just look bad, right?
No, I wasn't staring at your face earlier.
Okay.
But now I'm staring.
Now you're staring at my face.
Look at the face.
Look at the face. We're just staring across this table at each other's faces. That's not awkward.
That's weird.
Other things that happen, started watching Better Call Saul.
Sure.
It's good so far.
It is a good show.
I only got 3 episodes in. I was 1 episode in. when I looked out the window last night, and there were snowflakes about the size of a quarter coming down from the sky. And so I went back over to the station to change my forecast because I was like, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to go over and do it because that's what I should do.
That's what good boys do.
That's what good boys do. And so I go over to do that. Alarm goes off. The alarm system goes off. And we have a passcode, so I enter it in. Nothing happens. I enter it in again. Nothing happens. And I start kind of panicking at that point. I think I might have done it one more time at the back door, and then I went to the front door and tried entering it in. Nothing happened. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to let it count down and get a call from the security company. And while that happened, I called one of our other coworkers to let her know what was up. And then it took a couple minutes for the security company to call after the alarm turned off.
Right.
I entered in the code one last time to see if I could get the actual alarm to stop. And it did, but then we still got a call.
Sure.
Because it was past the countdown point. And that was just like it was very stressful. It's like, I just wanted to do my job.
But they didn't cuff you and stuff you.
No, none of that happened. The police didn't arrive because we have a password that we give the security company when they call if the alarm has gone off, and I gave it to them and they canceled it, and so no cops were involved.
That's awesome.
We did have an incident where that happened a couple months ago now, I guess, but so that was a whole thing last night. Got my blood pumping for a little bit, reminded me I was alive and terrified of everything. Okay, so we're about to get into the album, but first we got some beer with us.
Yes, we do.
We
I brought
always
some beer over.
We always have some beer. This is a beer we've had before on here, but
is it? Did we have this before?
I'm pretty sure we've had Sierra Nevada Torpedo. So yeah, it's Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA. The questions that I want to ask is, we know what it's called. Where's it from? Is it made in the Sierra Nevadas? Is it California? Nevada. Well, it says Sierra. Oh, I thought it Sierra Nevada Brewing Company.
Sure.
Doesn't say if it's a product of California.
The bottle here. It says I can't read it because I've got an old, and I can't.
You have an old?
I have an old. I've got the old.
You've got the old. Oh, I'm so sorry.
And now
I hear that's terminal.
It says Mills River Incorporated, Chico, California.
California. It's from California. My question to you is, how does it smell?
I think it smells nice. It smells like an IPA. You can smell the herbal notes of the hops in there.
You can smell it. Yes.
Yeah. It has an aroma.
It has an aroma. Yeah. That's what I want to know. Does it have a smell?
It does.
And it has a good taste too.
Good flavor. It's an IPA.
Speaking of flavors, this album has a flavor that
Great
you can savor.
Segue.
So, like I said in the intro, this is Idol by Horrendous. It's an album that came out last year in September, I think. It is the fourth album from Horrendous. They're a Philadelphia-based band. One of the questions that I put, just because it's fun, how do you think they smell?
How do I think
after listening to this album and not knowing what they look like? How do you think they smell?
Horrendous. I think,
or not. How do they smell? How do you think the album smells?
The album smelled well. It was fresh.
What are the notes you think?
I thought it had a nice, maybe a slight licorice, maybe a little bit of anise.
Licorice, okay. Yeah, something a little bitter, but kind of. This album's kind of like an IPA almost.
It is a bit.
It's refreshing. It's
has staying power.
It has staying power. Yeah. It's a bit heavier than your typical.
It's kind of thick.
It's kind of thick.
Yeah.
This album. Yeah, it's kind of like an IPA. It smells hoppy.
It has a good nose.
This album has a good nose. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, they're from Philadelphia. They have been going at it since 2009. They're a 4-piece, and they have 2 vocalists.
I was gonna say, I noticed that they have 2 vocalists.
Dual vocalists, both of whom are guitarists. The personnel on here, we've got Jamie Knox on the drums. What I presume is his brother Matt Knox on the guitar, Damian Herring also on guitar, and then Alex Kulik on the bass. Apparently, up until this album, they didn't have a bassist.
Really?
This is their 4th album, and I don't know if they just didn't perform live all that much up until recently.
Well, this one really relies heavily on the bass.
Yes, this is very bass album. This is a very bass heavy album.
Yeah.
And I've listened to their earlier work, and bass isn't missing. I think they played bass on the album, but I'm not sure if what they would have done for live.
Now they just have someone who's artistically a bass player.
Yes, they have someone whose job it is to play the bass.
I mean, the first minute and 19 seconds is just guitar.
Bass. Yeah. The opening title of the track, which is Prescient, is just a minute-long instrumental, and that is all bass. It's just bass, and it's really it really sets the tone. It's very kind of foreboding, mysterious bass track. And then you jump into the first full track, which is Soothsayer, where the whole band, the whole shebang comes in instead of just the bass. How did this feel familiar to you at all?
Something about it felt familiar. It sounded a little bit like what's the band? And not like a metal band, or there's a fringe metal band that it reminded me of, and I'm not placing it at the moment.
See, what it feels...
Some of the guitars.
What it feels like to me is it feels like this is what Death would sound like if they were of a younger generation.
Sure.
If Chuck Schuldiner was, at this moment 29 or whatever, and he was playing in a death metal band still, I feel like they really have a similar spirit to Death and a similar sound.
A similar feel.
It's still very much death metal, but it's got a bit more going on. It's progressive. It's very inventive, I feel like. But you listen to this, and I don't think anyone would say, oh, that's not death metal.
No, you'd say it's death metal.
But there's just something more interesting going on than your Cannibal Corpses or...
Some of it reminded me of what's the sort of hardcore band that punk band that we did an review of
Converge?
No, the other one. It was one of the first ones we did. You and I did from Buffalo, New York. From
Every Time I Die.
A little bit. There's a little bit of Every Time I Die in there.
Did we do it in Every Time I Die episode?
Yeah, we did.
I don't know if we did.
I feel like we did.
We've talked a lot about them. I don't know if we've actually done an Every Time I Die episode, though.
Well, if we haven't, we need to.
I'll have to look through the list. I'm not sure we've done one.
Okay.
I'm not sure we have done one.
There was a little bit of that spirit in there. It felt, with a little bit of the rhythm changes, the type of guitar playing in there.
The ethos, I think, is similar because Andy Williams has always kind of said it's the riff that's heavy. It's not the tune, or not the... It's not the tuning.
Guitar, yeah, exactly.
The riff is what's heavy, and boy howdy, this album has riffs.
Lots of riffs.
It's just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of great riffs. And even though it is a riff, which is by definition a repeated bit,
right?
Almost every repeated section of a riff sounds different. There's some little bit in it that is a little bit different, and they find ways to make the same riff sound different every time.
Right.
If you get what I'm saying. Like it's not just, oh, that's a good riff, but then they play it a couple more times and it's like, okay, it's kind of losing me a little bit, and then you switch to another one. This, it's like, it's a good riff. They add just a little bit more to it, and then it changes.
Right. So you never get bored listening to it.
Yeah. This is just such an interesting album. It's an extremely interesting album. It kind of leads into, all this talk about riffs kind of leads into our next little segment. Does it slap?
Yeah.
So, slap, right? The slap. Does this album have the slap?
I think it does.
I think it definitely slaps.
It definitely slaps.
Now, just because something does or does not slap is not necessarily an overall mark of quality or enjoyment. There are albums that I enjoy that don't slap. This album fucking slaps, dude. And I think the riffs are the reason why it slaps. It's just always changing, but and they're unconventional time signatures.
Right.
But you always kind of want to go along with the beat. That's how I feel when I listen to it.
It's got a beat and you can dance to it.
Well, you could try.
You can make an attempt.
You can make an attempt to dance to it. It might look a little strange.
Yeah.
That's
especially if you or I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's just moshing at that
Yeah,
point,
that's
isn't
just
it?
what that is, yeah.
You're just moshing by yourself.
I'm moshing with myself.
I'm moshing by myself. The next segment that I put on there, something that I thought of, it's called What's the Score? Where I'm going to, where this week I didn't quite do this, but from now on, I'm going to try and look online and find 10 reviews from different publications and get an average of them, whether it's out of 10 or out of 100, or maybe they're doing out of 5 or whatever. I'll translate it into out of 100 to figure out what the general consensus was. This time I just looked on Encyclopedia Metallica.
Sure. I'm on there, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah.
You have Dredgecan has a page on Encyclopedia Metallica.
It's got like one line.
Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah.
I think you've showed me that actually.
It says I have a tattoo. That's what it says. Yeah.
I wonder who wrote that.
I have no idea.
Like,
they spelled our drummer's name wrong, and they said that I have a tattoo.
So it probably wasn't one of your bandmates?
Probably not. I don't know who it was.
That's funny though. So yeah, I looked on Encyclopedia Metallicum. There's Metallica.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Not Metallica. I don't think it's Metallica.
That would be interesting though.
Yeah, it would be.
But I looked on there, and there's actually only one review on there of Idol. I think it was 96% or something. So what I did is I just looked through all the reviews of the band, and for their entire discography, it's really impressive. Their entire discography is at where's the number here? 87.3% out of 21 reviews for the whole discography. That's pretty good, especially for that website. Which tends to be pretty elitist, I think would be the term. They're very kind of snobby about their metal, generally speaking.
Sure.
Although I believe anyone can submit reviews. It's not, they don't have, a staff of music journalists that are writing for them, but it's usually very in-depth metalheads that are doing that sort of thing.
Serious people.
Serious people. And yeah, 87.3 for their whole discography. Almost every review, well, all of the reviews for this album, which is one, was very positive. All the other ones were quite positive. The outliers, there was a couple for the previous album, which is Anarita, something like that. Couple of those were like in the 50s.
Really?
Which I don't think is appropriate. I don't know what they didn't like about it. I've listened to it. I like that album quite a bit. Not as much as I like Idol, but I still like it quite a lot.
Right. This is the first album that comes up when you look at them on my streaming app. The first one that comes up is Idol.
Yeah. Well, and it's their most recent, which might be the reason for that.
Right.
Anarita really put them on the I guess the
map.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. It really put them on the map. Got a lot of people paying attention to them. They switched from, I can't recall what label they were on, to Season of Mist, which is a fairly large, generally metal publication, generally metal label. Good Lord.
Are you all right, man?
I don't know. But yeah, it's generally a larger label. Lot of, I'd say, more independent style bands. It's not like one of these big, it's not Century Media. It's not Nuclear Blast or anything. I think Heilung is on Season of Mist.
Really?
Heilung's not a metal band, but there's a lot of crossover in the fan base and in the band members as well.
Crossover with the band members?
Well, the band members, a couple of them, I think, have been in black metal bands.
Okay.
So
crossover with the genre.
With the genre.
Not specifically with Horrendous.
Not with Horrendous. I was speaking about like the typical stuff you'd find on Season of Mist versus Heilung, which is, folk. They call it amplified history.
Okay.
Basically, like, this is what a Viking concert would sound like, or a pagan Anglo-Saxon concert, or whatever.
And
anything ancient Germanic. This is if they put on a big show. That's what it would sound like. Yeah,
they're
Horrendous.
guessing.
Yeah, they are kind of guessing, but it is. I think they do have some actual poems and stuff that they perform as part of their music and whatnot, and it's all very drum driven. Drums and horns is their big thing.
Sure.
And by horns, I mean actual horns.
Like horn, not like a trumpet and a trombone and
like a literal horn.
like a horn from an animal.
From an animal.
Right.
But yeah, they're on that label as well. I don't know. I just felt like talking about Heilung for a little bit. Heilung? Something like it's German for healing.
It's not like high lung. Not like you got a lung trapped up in your collarbone.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No, you don't want
That'd
high
be
lung.
bad.
Man.
You don't want that. That would be real bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to play favorites.
Okay.
What's your favorite song on the record?
I thought Golgothan Tongues.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that one riff in there which is something like that.
Yeah. Loved it.
That's every time that riff hits, it's like, ooh, yes. I get very, very excited.
Yeah, and the way the song ends is great too.
Yes.
It's very just beautiful, just chilling.
It's beautiful. I think is a really good word for this album. And it's a death metal album that you can call beautiful. There's not a lot of those.
Unusual, yeah.
I think we've said that before on this show. I can't remember exactly what about, but this one really is. It's a beautiful piece of work. Everything about it. It's one of those albums where everything just comes together. It's all at the same level, and that level is very good.
Yes.
The production is great. The guitar tones are fantastic. The vocals are quite good, although I'm not 100% on. I think it's Matt's vocals. He has the sort of the thinner voice. Yeah,
he sounds like he reminds me of John Tardy from Obituary a little bit.
Okay. I was thinking not quite. I was thinking like maybe a thinner and somewhat higher early Chuck Schuldiner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like not quite the high sort of screechy Chuck from Sound of Perseverance,
sure.
but more of the original era Chuck.
Sure.
With slightly lower but thinner still.
Late 80s, early 90s Chuck.
Yeah. And
to compare them to Death Again.
Yeah. Like I'm not 100% on his vocals. They don't detract. I think they could be better, but they don't detract from the album. And I think what I assume is Damien's vocal is still is very powerful on its own. It's very it's not, none of the vocals on this album are very deep. There's no deep growls on this, but Damien's vocals are much more. They have a lot more force, and they're very throaty.
Very throaty, like it's a a throaty shout.
Yeah, they're kind of wet in a sense where you can
He has moist vocals.
They're kind of you can sort of hear the gurgle at the back of his throat a little bit. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, this all sounds a little suggestive, but
it's suggestive, slightly gross.
That's how to describe them. Though.
Sure.
They're very, very well. They're very clear.
Yeah, you never have a hard time understanding what he's saying. Not really.
Generally speaking, yeah, it's pretty intelligible.
Right.
I still had to look up the lyrics for a lot of them. Maybe because as many times as I've listened to this album in the last couple of months, because this has been I discovered it part ways into January when Anthony Fantano was doing his year-end list, and this was his highest rated death metal album on his list. So it's like, oh well, generally I agree with his music tastes, especially when it comes to like classic death metal, because he doesn't really care about anything that has a core at the end of it, except maybe grind, but
or apple
or apple cores. Yes, he loves apple cores.
Who doesn't?
He's a vegan, so sure.
There you go.
But the whole thing, they need the nutrients.
There's protein in there.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, so I started listening to it, and I was like, holy shit, how did I miss this? And I really think if I had listened to it when it came out, it would have been on my list, on my year-end list. I might have even placed it higher than Rivers of Nile as far as death metal goes.
Really?
I enjoyed it that much. It's
wow, because you talk about that incessantly.
I know I do. And it's kind of like I still really enjoyed that album, but there's just there's something ever so slightly more pure about this album. I think the production is better. I think the work not that there's I was going to say work ethic. There's not anything wrong
You
with
can
it.
tell
just
they
like,
showed up.
like the composition almost. There's just a lot of real originality on this album. Where nothing feels everything feels familiar yet new on this. Where Rivers of Nile has a lot of stuff that feel kind of familiar. The saxophone is a good difference that really kind of sets it apart from,
Which actually fits.
It sets it apart from a lot of other albums. And both of these are what I would call progressive death metal. But there's just something, maybe it's the kind of the elitist in me a little bit. This is more classic death metal. And it's what I've slowly been rotating more towards over the last couple of years.
Sure.
Is I've been trying to both dig back a little bit and find classic death metal or older death metal that I enjoy, but also find newer bands that are still making something that sounds like that is still original and has a higher production value.
Right.
I was reading a review of this album earlier today, and it was talking about how everything is so well balanced that it's I lost it. I had the quote in my head, and then I lost it. Like it's technical, but it's not technical death metal.
Sure.
It's progressive, but it's not really progressive death metal. I'd still call it that.
And the solos in here, they do a lot of solos in here.
Solos,
yeah.
Solos.
They're great.
Yo solo.
Shut up, Salacious Crumb. No one asked for your input. But yeah, there are some great guitar solos in here. I think that's Damien. I think Damien would be considered the lead guitarist. I was watching some live performances just so I could, like, I've seen band pictures. It was like, I want to know who is who. And I think Damien's the one with the, as we discussed, the more forceful screams and
the moist throat.
And I would consider him the lead guitarist. He seems to be the one doing the lead work.
Sure.
And it's fantastic lead work. Oh,
it's very rock and roll.
Yes, his guitar solos are quite kind of rock and roll, very sort of classic rock. And apparently on one of their earlier albums, they have, I can't remember the name of the song or which album it is. I think it's Exis or something. I don't know quite how it's pronounced, which was their second full-length album. And apparently that one had like a whole song that was kind of, it was still death metal production in tones, but it was all just like 80s riffs, basically. Wow. And I don't know if, I'm sure I've listened to it. I just can't think of it succinctly.
Sure. It's like, it'll come to mind later.
It'll come.
Once you've hit stop on the...
Yeah, I'll figure it out. But yeah, I really liked... So we were talking about favorites.
Yeah.
Golgothan Tongues. I really like the closer as well.
Yes, very much.
Obolus would be the Obolus, which is a type of ancient Greek currency.
Oh, sure.
I had to look that up to see what it was, and the lyrics reference that. And I'm actually going to talk about the lyrics here for a second because I printed them off because they don't have a Wikipedia page or anything.
They don't have a Wikipedia page?
Yeah, because they're fairly new. They're still pretty underground.
So yeah, 10 years old.
It's true. They are 10 years old at this point, but they still don't have a Wikipedia page. Weird. So they actually have the lyrics are amazing, really? Especially for a death metal album, for a death metal band. The lyrics are amazing, and they're not like uplifting, I'd say. Well, kind of, but they are tactful in a sense, where they're dealing with certain themes. A lot of nihilism on this album, I'd say. Thoughts about determinism. A little bit of, I'd say, like anti-religion type stuff, but it's not in your face.
They're not preachy.
Yeah, they're not preachy in that sense. So one of the lyrics on Obolus that really struck me when I read it is, and can you bear to wear the And can you bear to wear the death mask again? Dry your eyes, Sisyphus, and shoulder your burden. And in the end, they'll measure your worth by how much you've been broken. and give you the stone to roll again. And your final reward, an obelisk on your lips, for Charon's passage to the shore. Is it hubris to ask for more when the feast is at its end and the lights have dimmed? In this miserable play, this grand mockery, where all is illusory, in this absence of light, I'll burn in effigy. I won't take another bow to seek the face of life, to pull the veil away, to face annihilation, and tear the masters from their gilded gates. What?
Yeah.
Like the part about Sisyphus, it's like they'll measure your worth by how much you've been broken.
Sure.
That's
Sisyphus, in of course, as we know,
Yes.
pushes the stone up the...
in Greek myth was what did Sisyphus do? I can't recall why Zeus punished him in that manner. Was he a Titan or? I mean, that's Atlas who's holding up the world, but
Sure.
Sisyphus, I don't remember what he did to piss off Zeus. Probably nothing. Zeus is an asshole.
Complete asshole. But I think it has something to do with him giving fire to...
No,
was it
that's Prometheus.
To Prometheus, who brought
Okay.
fire to man.
Okay. I
And it's
didn't
like-
realize Sisyphus was a part of that.
I think he was somehow entwined in that particular...
Who is the one
portion
who
of
is sentenced to have his innards pecked out by griffins or whatever? Or am I getting that confused with one of the God of War games?
No. It's weird. God of War was actually fairly accurate with,
yeah.
with a lot of that shit.
They
Who
did
was
their
that?
homework.
They did. Yeah, it was Sisyphus that pushed the stone up the hill every day to have it roll back down on him, and it was maybe that was Prometheus who had to get his.
Yeah, it was. Yep, it was Prometheus that got his innards pecked out by griffins
birds.
every day.
Right.
I believe it was specifically griffins.
Yeah, McElroy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Griffin McElroy.
Yeah.
30 under 30 media luminary, Griffin McElroy. He still says that every episode, and I love it. If you're listening and you're wondering what we're
the
talking
hell
about,
are they talking about?
there's a podcast called My Brother, and Me, hosted by three brothers, all by the last name of McElroy. Griffin is the youngest brother. It's fantastic. You should listen to it. And if you like D&D, also listen to their podcast, The Adventure Zone. Start at the beginning, work your way forward.
There you go.
I can't recommend all of their stuff enough.
You know they're never going to give us a shout out. That's fine.
Hey, don't say that. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day they'll give us a shout out.
Maybe hashtag them when you post this.
They don't really have a whole lot of crossover with the metal community, so I don't think our luck is that good.
Oh, come on. We referenced Star Wars already.
Sure. Let's see if I have anything else in my notes here. Yeah, there's a lot of the other songs. Definitely notes of nihilism in the lyrics and that sort of thing. Just bits about how this doesn't mean anything, but there are also bits about how you can find some meaning, which is I guess existentialism.
Sure. So they touch on a lot of different philosophy.
Yeah, there's a lot of philosophy, but mostly it sticks with the theme of just kind of general despair, but stoicism and bits like that. Some philosophy. Lots of philosophy on this record. Let's see. So, what time
Where are we at?
We're only at 35.
We're only 35.
We kind of rushed.
Well, it's because it's organized.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what happens
organized.
when it's organized.
I
is you don't
suppose.
meander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have room to meander. It's not that we can't meander. I actually had to pay a couple bucks to get the last episode up before the end of the month.
Really? Oh, really?
Because we ran out of space.
Oh.
Because it was
because it was an extra.
Yeah, and it was just shy too. It was I had like 60 gigs of space left in it. The raw file was 78. So I had to chuck Libsyn another $5 in order to put it up.
Because March was 40 days long this year.
Yeah, March was 40 days long.
Right.
Felt like it.
It did.
March was kind of a long month.
Not as long as February. February was the longest month this year.
Well, yeah, because it was so goddamn
It was
cold.
balls ass cold.
Balls ass cold. But yeah, March. I think March felt long to me because I had the tax thing hanging over my head for so long, and it was unnecessarily up there. It was just me being lazy. But it was still a thing where it's like, you need to do this, and every day I would think about it and then not do anything about it. I'm really bad about that. So Final thoughts on this album. We have 4 categories.
Yeah,
in
do
front of
not
us.
pass.
Did not. Well, I was not do not pass.
Oh, okay.
That stands for DNP, which stands for did not place.
Oh, did not place. Okay.
So, did this album not place?
Mm-hmm.
Did it win the bronze medal? Did it win the silver medal? Or did it win a gold medal?
In your opinion, what do you think?
Oh, you're starting with me.
Go for it, dude.
I have to give this album the gold medal.
You think it gets a gold medal?
In its category, especially if we think about the medals that we're giving it in its we don't have something to compare it to directly right now.
Right.
But as far as death metal albums that I've listened to in the last year, yeah,
It gets a gold.
It gets a gold. It wins gold.
See, I've only listened to it once, so I can't give it more than a silver.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
But I want to listen to it again.
We got a 7 from the Russian judge.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you want to listen to it again because this has really become one of my go-tos, especially when I'm at work and I'm doing logs or whatever it might be. I think it's really because it's so listenable. Also because it has such good production.
Yes.
It is very well produced. I should have gotten the producer's name. I didn't, but when I interviewed him. That's the way, that's the way I said that. I didn't get his name. I met him on the street. I didn't get his name. But I didn't get the producer's name. But goodness, he did a great job. It might actually be self-produced. I'm not sure. If it is, holy crap, for a self-produced album. Yeah, wow, very well done. But everything just sounds so good. Everything pops. Everything is audible. That's the other thing. Because there's a tendency with a fair amount of death metal,
to be muddy,
for the production to be a bit muddy or maybe a bit too staticky, in a sense where there's a bit too much distortion, or the distortion is a bit too fuzzy. A little bit of fuzzy distortion is fine. Add some warmth to it,
right? But
too much and it's almost like, why are you bothering to play different notes?
If you can't hear them.
Yeah, they all the notes sort of sound the same. The riffs and the chords sound different, but the notes, if you're just doing a single note, I don't know what that is.
I think it's funny that somebody would say, hey, how did you find that new album? Well, I found it to be audible.
I found it audible. I could hear it. There was sound. They it played out of the speakers.
Of all the death metal albums I've heard, it was the most recent. Yes.
That's your true placing. That's your real place. Most recent. It's probably true.
Actually, that is accurate.
It's accurate. That's good, though. I like that. Okay, so next week, we're just back into a regular old month with April.
Regular old month.
We're not doing anything specific. There's no theme. You could bring anything as long as it can be called metal or is roughly adjacent. Maybe it's hardcore punk. I don't know. What do you got for us next week?
Okay, let me preface this. It's not their best album.
Okay, we got a preface already.
It's not their best album, but it is one that means the most to me, and it's my go-to album from them.
So I'm gonna shit all over it.
Feel free, my friend, to shit all over it.
Okay, what is it?
It's In Flames, Sound of a Playground Fading.
Okay, In Flames. That's a band it's a band I know of. It's a band I'm not familiar with.
Sure.
So I will be sure to give that a listen, and we'll get back to it next week. Is there anything I should have in my brain going into this, or do you want me to just go into it 100% clean?
Just go in clean.
Just go in clean? Okay.
Yeah.
Just give it a nice wipe.
Just brainwash yourself.
Get a wet wipe and just rub the whole thing down. Exactly. We don't want any unpleasant odors or anything. No,
you don't want it. No.
And no residue. Just go in clean.
You want to know, because how does it smell is now a permanent question here. So
it's true. It's true. I think, by the way, after next week, I've changed my mind. Last week, we rolled for what this album was going to be, whether it was going to be this one or When a Shadow is Forced into the Light by
Sure.
Swallow the Sun. I've changed my plan on what next week's out. Not next week.
But the following, your next
the week
week.
after.
Yeah.
My next turn. I've changed my plan on what that album is going to be.
Yeah.
To Autumn Eternal by Panopticon.
Oh, good choice.
It's a band that I've really been getting into over the last month. And so I think we're going to be listening to that one instead of Swallow the Sun. I really, really like that album. We'll save it for another day.
Okay.
But yeah, so that'll be coming up in 2 weeks, and then we'll go from there.
Sweet.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast.
Indeed.
I hope you enjoyed our segments, I guess. I wanted to keep the album discussion a bit more organized.
Sure.
Or make it
And
a
it
bit
was.
more organized, just so we would have points to talk about instead of kind of meandering through it. And we can save the meandering for later in the episode at the beginning and the end. It's an album sandwich. That's what this podcast is now. It's an album sandwich.
An album sandwich. Now what we have to do is we have to come up with a shit album so that we can make a shit sandwich.
There we go. Well, I mean, at some point,
We
right,
never do that. We never review. I mean, I guess we've done one album we didn't like.
I don't remember which one that was. Oh, that was Mayhem.
Mayhem,
That's
yeah.
right. It's kind of Mayhem is actually kind of, in theory, has kind of grown on me. Maybe it's because I watched Lords of Chaos, and I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah.
But in theory, it's kind of growing on me because at least Mayhem isn't Lords of Chaos. So I don't know. I'll have to revisit Mayhem a little bit and see if I've acquired a taste for it a little bit. But yeah, we don't. I mean, it's not. It can be fun to review bad albums, but the thing is like there's a big market for reviewing bad movies, right?
Sure.
Because when a movie is really bad, when a movie fails on every level, it's usually funny.
Sure. When an album fails, it's not so funny.
Yeah, when an album fails, it's not funny. It's just boring and unenjoyable.
Right.
Like The Room is funny because it is such a colossal failure. A bad album is not funny.
Because it's too personal.
Yeah, it's personal, and it's you're not enjoying it with another person.
Sure.
Is the other thing. Like you can sit down and listen to an album together, but that's not the way that either of us really consume music.
No.
And yeah, reviewing bad albums is just not fun.
No.
It can happen, but it's not fun. And I'd much rather talk about stuff that we like. Something that we like might still be kind of meh, but I like to bring albums that I enjoy. It's easier for me to talk about things that I enjoy than it is for me to talk about things that I dislike. Unless it is funny, like a movie, like a bad movie.
Sure.
There were a lot of laughs at Lords of Chaos.
And we enjoyed the movie.
Yes, we enjoyed ourselves. Maybe we didn't enjoy the movie necessarily, but we had a good time while the movie was happening.
Indeed.
And that just doesn't happen with music. So,
No. Well, I mean, it doesn't happen with bad music.
yeah. Yeah.
We enjoy music.
That's true. That's true. I don't enjoy any music. I've been lying this whole time.
This is the end of the Bronze Medalist podcast forever.
I've revealed this. Now I have to leave. But yeah, I'd much rather talk about stuff that I enjoy, and I can hope that you enjoy it, and you can bring stuff that maybe I won't enjoy, but that you enjoy, and that's fine. But I think if I hate something, I feel like you're probably not going to like it too.
Right. Yeah, because we enjoy similar things.
Yeah, so that's easier. That's easier for us. We really sidetracked there for a moment, but yeah. I said the thank you for listening thing about 5 minutes ago, it feels like.
That's fine.
So thanks again for listening to the Bronze Medalist podcast. If you enjoy this, I guess check us out on Facebook. I feel like we might abandon the whole social media plug later on just because who cares? Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? But yeah, you can check us out. We're on Facebook. You'll get updates. We're on Twitter. You'll get updates.
Sure.
There you go.
Instagram,
you won't get updates.
No, you won't.
Share us with your friends and
Ibsen. Go on Ibsen.
Ibsen? You mean Libsyn?
Libsyn. No, Ibsen.
Just Ibsen.
Just Ibsen, not Libsyn.
Okay.
Libsyn is where the podcast is. Find Ibsen.com
What's there?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, now I guess I have to buy Ibsen.com.
Damn it.
I have to go on GoDaddy and reserve that URL.
Yeah, go ask Danica Patrick for your Ibsen.
Because she gives them out.
Yeah, she's the one.
She's personally doing that.
She delivers them in her race car.
She delivers the paperwork. So here's your paperwork. Are you Danica Patrick? Is that a race car? Is that a NASCAR? Did you come here in your stock car?
What are you doing?
Shh.
I thought you retired.
No one will ever believe you. All right. We got to wrap this silliness up. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations. You okay?
I made stroganoff for dinner.
Stroganoff.
Stroganoff, yes.
Like the beef stroganoff.
Of the beef variety,
Of
yes.
the beef. Beef stroganoff.
Masturbating cattle.
Hey.
Hey.
That a band name?
Could be.
I mean, that's technically a thing that people do fairly often in the beef industry.
They masturbate cattle, yeah.
They do masturbate cattle. My old roommate told me about that. I mean, I knew about that, but it's like, I think
he told you about it.
Well, no, it came up one time. It was like, you have to jerk the bulls off?
Yeah.
Technically, sometimes.
Sure.
You know, depends.
That's how they had that 3-game winning streak in the 80s.
Hey!
Hey!
Oh, and I'm also